Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tina Jha with News Tonight, where we get you the day's biggest news stories from across India and the world. President Ramnath Kovind addressed the nation on the eve of the 74th Independence Day, praising the contributions of frontline workers battling the COVID-19 pandemic. The president called them our national heroes. Giving an account of the government's steps to assist the poor and migrants during the pandemic, the president said, in this phase of the crisis, virus containment efforts have been supplemented by welfare interventions. Stating that in the fight against COVID-19, life and livelihood are both essential, the president called the current crisis an opportunity to initiate reforms and revitalize the economy for the benefit of all, especially the farmers and small entrepreneurs. Take a look at some of the highlights of the president's speech.
The celebrations of Independence Day this year will be rather restrained. The reason is obvious. The whole world confronts a deadly virus which has disrupted all activities and taken a huge toll. It has altered the world we lived in before the pandemic. It is very reassuring to note that the central government, while anticipating the tremendous challenge, responded effectively and well in time. For a country so vast and diverse with high population density, meeting this challenge requires superhuman efforts. All state governments took measures in accordance with local circumstances. People also supported wholeheartedly. With our committed efforts, we have succeeded in containing the magnitude of the pandemic and saving a large number of lives. The nation is indebted to doctors, nurses, and other health workers who have been continuously on the forefront of our fight against this virus. Unfortunately, many of them have lost their lives battling the pandemic. They are our national heroes. All corona warriors deserve high praise. They go much beyond their call of duty to save lives and ensure essential services. These doctors, health workers, members of disaster management teams, police personnel, sanitation workers, delivery staff, transportation, railway and aviation personnel, providers of various services, government employees, social service organizations, and generous citizens have been scripting inspiring stories of courage and selfless service. When cities and towns go quiet and roads are deserted, they work tirelessly to ensure that people are not deprived of health care and relief. Virus containment efforts have been supplemented by welfare interventions. By introducing Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, the government has enabled crores of people to earn their livelihood and mitigate the impact of job loss, dislocation, and disruption caused by the pandemic. The government continues to extend its helping hand through a number of initiatives supported wholeheartedly by the corporate sector, civil society, and citizens. The needy are being given free food grains so that no family goes hungry. The largest free food distribution program in the world has been extended till the end of November 2020 to provide succor to about 80 crore people every month. Confident of our strengths, we reached out to help other countries in their fight against COVID-19. In responding to calls from countries for supply of medicines, India has once again shown that it stands by the global community in times of distress. We have been at the forefront in evolving regional and global strategies for an effective response to the pandemic. The overwhelming support India got at the elections for the non-permanent seat of the United Nations Security Council is a testimony to the goodwill we enjoy internationally. It has been the tradition of India that we do not just live for ourselves, but work for the well-being of the entire world. India's self-reliance means being self-sufficient without alienating or creating distance from the world. It implies that India will continue to engage with the world economy while maintaining its identity. Even while the world community needs to fight together against the greatest challenge before humanity, some in our neighborhood tried to carry out their misadventure of expansion. Our brave soldiers laid down their lives defending our borders. Those worthy sons of Bharat Mata lived and died for national pride. The entire nation salutes the martyrs of Galwan Valley. Every Indian feels grateful to their family members. Their bravery in combat has demonstrated that while we believe in peace, we are also capable of giving a befitting response to any attempt of aggression. We are proud of the members of our armed forces, paramilitary forces, and police personnel who protect the borders and ensure our internal security. The invisible virus has demolished the illusion that human being is the master of nature. I believe it is still not too late for humanity to correct its course and live in harmony with nature. In my view, human-centric collaboration is more important than economy-centric inclusion in the present context. The greater this change, the better it will be for the humanity. The 21st century should be remembered as the century when humanity put aside differences and collaborated to save the planet.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu also greeted people on the eve of Independence Day. He conveyed warm greetings and good wishes to people on the joyous occasion of our 74th Independence Day. He also paid tribute to the brave freedom fighters who made countless sacrifices to build an independent nation and to secure a bright future for it. In his message, the Vice President said, "The most meaningful tribute we can pay to these patriots is to build an India they aspired for." He also called upon citizens to renew our commitment towards building a united, strong, prosperous, inclusive and peaceful nation where a billion-plus dreams find expression and fulfillment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver his 7th straight Independence Day speech from the ramparts of the Red Fort on Saturday. Multi-layered security arrangements and mandatory social distancing will be among some of the distinctive features at the 74th Independence Day celebrations at Red Fort this year. The Ministry of Defence is organizing the flag hoisting ceremony. maintaining the balance between the sanctity and dignity of the national function while factoring in precautions related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The guiding principle for seating this time is Do Gaz Ki Doori, or 6 feet distance between the guests during the event. Participation is only through invitation. More details in this report. In order to facilitate seamless movement and avoid crowding, seating enclosures and walkways have been laid with wooden flooring and carpeting. Additional door frame metal detectors with adequately spaced markings have been provided to avoid queuing and ensuring smooth passage for invitees. Most of the parking areas have been brick-lined and paved to ensure smooth entry and exit of vehicles. Members of the Guard of Honor have been quarantined for safety. NCC cadets have been invited to witness the event this time instead of young school children. They will be seated at Gyan Path. An orderly dispersal plan is being implemented in various enclosures. Medical booths at 4 locations, 1 near the rampart, 1 in Madhav Das Park and 2 in the 15th August Park, will be at the service of any attendees who are detected with COVID-19 related symptoms during entry. Ambulances will also be stationed at these locations. There will be thermal screening at all entry points for invitees. Thorough sanitization of the premises inside and outside the Red Fort is being carried out regularly. All invitees have been requested to wear masks. In addition, masks are also being kept handy for distribution at various points of venue. Hand sanitizers are also available at predefined locations. A security ring of NSG snipers, elite SWAT commandos and kite catchers will be stationed around the Red Fort, from where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the nation. There will be around 4,000 security personnel at the Red Fort who will all follow social distancing norms. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV. And let's now talk about the coronavirus situation in the country. Well, India's COVID-19 tally crossed 24.6 lakh with over 60,000 new cases reported on Friday. India, with the world's 3rd highest caseload behind the United States and Brazil, has now reported a jump of 58,000 cases or more each day for 16 straight days and has added over 4,34,000 cases in just the past 7 days. While cases are rising, indicating the spread of the disease, the recovery rate continues to be more than 70%. 64,553 COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours has pushed India's tally to 24,61,000. Over 17,51,000 patients have recovered so far, taking the recovery rate to 70.17%. Active cases stand at over 6,61,000. With 1,007 deaths, the death toll has crossed 48,040. COVID-19 testing continues to grow and over 8,48,000 samples were tested on Thursday, which is the highest in a single day so far. Over 2,76 lakh samples have been tested till date. The week-wise average daily tests conducted witnessed a sharp increase from around 2,30,000 in the first week of July 2020 to more than 6,30,000 in the current week. 5 states with the biggest 24-hour jump in total cases are Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Maharashtra has the biggest caseload in the country with over 5 lakh cases constituting 22.76% of total cases. Maharashtra has 3 districts, Mumbai, Pune and Thane, with more than 1 lakh cases. These districts have death rates higher than all India average. Tamil Nadu, which has over 3,20,000 cases, has contributed 13% of total cases in the country. However, for the last 2 weeks, the state has seen a decline in the number of new cases reported each day. Many of Tamil Nadu's severely affected districts, including capital Chennai, are witnessing a drop in daily new cases. While the state reported over 6,000 daily cases in July, it has reported close to 5,000 cases every day this month. At 4.52%, cases in Andhra Pradesh are growing at a fast pace. The state has over 2,64,000 cases, out of which over 90,000 are active ones. Over 2,300 people have died so far. At 4.52%, cases in Andhra Pradesh are growing at a fast pace. The state has over 2,64,000 cases, out of which 90,000 are active ones. Over 2,300 people have died so far. With over 6,700 new cases on Thursday, confirmed coronavirus infections in Karnataka crossed 2 lakh. Karnataka is the fourth state after Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh to have more than 2 lakh infected people. More than half of the cases in Karnataka are still concentrated in Bengaluru, reporting 2,000 new cases daily on an average. The city has over 33,000 active cases. The death rate, however, remains low. 5 most affected states by total tally of cases are Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Delhi. While the case fatality rate has further declined to 1.96%, India is reporting about 800 deaths every day. India has the fourth highest deaths due to COVID-19 in the world after the United States, Brazil and Mexico. Test positivity ratio is also 8.93%, much above the WHO approved 5%, and is an indicator of the spread of the disease. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. The World Health Organization has called on countries to stay vigilant in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Calling the infection cascades of a waterfall, WHO's emergencies chief Dr. Michael Ryan warned against complacency.
And those countries that have made progress, please retain that progress. You will lose that progress if you relent, if you become complacent.
The caution came on a day when global COVID-19 infections crossed 21 million. The United States registered over 50,000 new cases in the past 24 hours, bringing its tally to over 5.4 million. Brazil surpassed 3.2 million COVID-19 cases and 1.05 lakh deaths on Friday. Peru and Mexico have also reported over 500,000 cases so far. Russia has agreed to join the World Health Organization's Access to COVID-19 Tools Accelerator program. It aims to develop, produce and provide equitable access to COVID-19 tests, treatments and vaccines. It is also discussing its newly approved COVID-19 vaccine Sputnik V with the agency. Several European countries are reimposing curbs amid a resurgence in cases. The UK is imposing a 14-day quarantine on arrival from high-risk countries, including France, starting Saturday. Germany had a daily count of 1,445, bringing total cases to over 2.22 million. Most new cases are linked to people returning from abroad. Spain's Canary Islands has banned smoking in public places amid infection worries. New measures including mandatory masks in public spaces, limiting gatherings to 10 people, and restrictions on nightclub capacity have also been imposed. New Zealand has extended coronavirus restrictions till August 26th in response to the fresh outbreak in the country. South Korea on Friday reported 103 new coronavirus cases, including 83 cases from Seoul. Meanwhile, Australia's Victoria state saw a drop in new cases. It had 372 new cases on the day.
Public and private sector banks have so far sanctioned 1.43 lakh crore rupees under the 100% emergency credit line guarantee scheme.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman informed that as of August 12th, out of the total amount sanctioned by public sector banks and private banks, 98,665.93 crore rupees has already been disbursed under the scheme. Loan amounts sanctioned by public sector banks increased to 74,502.85 crores, of which 54,677.11 crore rupees has been disbursed. The government launched the Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme to provide much-needed relief to the MSME sector during the COVID-19 crisis. The scheme provides 100% guarantee coverage by National Credit Guarantee Trustee Company to member lending institutions.
Union Sports Minister Kiren Rijiju launched the Fit India Freedom Run on Friday.
The longest countrywide run marks the 74th Independence Day. It will continue till 2nd of October, the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Launching the event, Rijiju said the Freedom Run will make every Indian fit for a new India. In view of the current pandemic situation, the unique event encourages participants to run at their own pace, anywhere and at any time of their convenience. Total kilometers clocked can be tracked using a global positioning system, GPS watch or manually. The event under the Fit India movement aims to encourage fitness among the masses while following COVID-19 protocols. Individuals and organizations can register for the event on the Fit India website.
The Supreme Court held Advocate Prashant Bhushan guilty of contempt of court for his tweets against Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde and the Apex Court.
The bench prima facie observed that his tweets have brought disrepute to the administration of justice and are capable of undermining the dignity and authority of the Supreme Court in general and the office of the Chief Justice of India in particular in the eyes of general public. Bhushan was found to have committed serious contempt, and the hearing for punishment in the case will be held on 20th of August. Punishment for contempt of court can go up to 6 months in jail or fine or both. The top court issued show cause notice to Bhushan on 22nd of July after initiating the criminal contempt against him for his 2 tweets. Bhushan said that he was exercising his freedom of speech and giving his opinion about the functioning of the court, and it does not amount to obstruction of justice, necessitating the contempt proceedings. Under the Contempt of Courts Act 1971, contempt refers to showing disrespect to the dignity or authority of a court. Civil contempt is the willful disobedience to any judgment, decree, direction, order, writ, or other processes of a court, or willful breach of an undertaking given to the court. Criminal contempt is the publication of any material that lowers the authority of the court or interferes in the course of a judicial proceeding or obstructs the administration of justice.
And the Supreme Court on Friday adjourned hearing on petitions relating to the University Grants Commission guidelines and final year examination 2020 till the 18th of August.
The University Grants Commission or UGC questioned decisions of the Delhi and Maharashtra governments to cancel final year exams of state universities amid the COVID-19 pandemic, saying they were against the rules. In Friday's hearing, the Union Home Ministry told the top court that it will allow university exams in the academic interest of students and issued a notification to the UGC. The UGC had asked universities across the country to conduct the examinations for final year by 30th of September. A group of 31 students from several states challenged that order and are seeking cancellation of exams in view of the coronavirus pandemic and floods in various parts of the country. They have demanded that final year students be promoted on basis of their past performance. However, the UGC has categorically said it will not cancel the examinations.
In a major diplomatic breakthrough to advance peace in the Middle East region, the UAE became the first Gulf country and the third in the Arab world to establish diplomatic relations with Israel. The deal was brokered by US President Donald Trump on Thursday.
The United Arab Emirates and Israel have agreed to establish full diplomatic relations as part of a new peace deal. The agreement came after a three-way phone call between US President Donald Trump and Israeli and Emirati leaders. Making the announcement, the US President said the UAE and Israel plan to exchange embassies and ambassadors and begin cooperating on a broad range of areas including tourism, education, healthcare, trade and security. Trump also tweeted a joint statement between the US, UAE and Israel which said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan have agreed to the full normalization of relations.
This is a truly historic moment. Not since the Israel-Jordan peace treaty was signed more than 25 years ago has so much progress been made towards peace in the Middle East. By uniting two of America's closest and most capable partners in the region, something which said could not be done, this deal is a significant step towards building a more peaceful, secure, and prosperous Middle East.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said a new era has opened between Israel and the Arab world. Delegations from Israel and the UAE will meet in the coming week to sign a formal agreement.
We announced the establishment of a full and formal peace between Israel and the UAE. It includes the mutual opening of embassies, direct flights, and many, many other bilateral agreements. This is the greatest advancements toward peace between Israel and the Arab world in the last 26 years, and it marks the third formal peace between Israel and an Arab nation.
Under the agreement, Israel would suspend its plan to annex parts of the West Bank that Palestinians see as a part of their future state.
The major benefit of the deal for both the country are they can maintain diplomatic relations, they can also start their trade, commerce and political relations. The other benefit of the deal, they can also maintain ties in the defense or security area.
Meanwhile, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has condemned the deal, so have Iran and Turkey. They also warned against any Israeli involvement in the Gulf. The UAE is the third Arab nation after Egypt and Jordan to announce active ties with Israel.
If you see from the economic point of view, the announcement of agreement between Israel and United Arab Emirates is a win-win situation for both the countries. And it is also very good for US President Donald Trump, given the fact that it may help him in the coming presidential election. But it will be interesting to see that how far it helps resolve the issues between Israelis and Palestinians. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television in Delhi.
And India has welcomed the deal between Israel and the UAE. MEA spokesperson Anurag Shrivastava said on Friday that India hopes there will be bilateral talks between Israel and Palestine too to resolve all issues.
EM received a call this afternoon from the UAE Foreign Minister on the announcement yesterday of the full normalization of relations between UAE and Israel. India has consistently supported peace, stability and development in West Asia, which is its extended neighborhood. In that context, we welcome the full normalization of ties between UAE and Israel. Both nations are key strategic partners of India. India continues its traditional support for the Palestinian cause. We hope to see early resumption of direct negotiations to find an acceptable two-state solution.
So that's it from us in this bulletin. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you.